Hi there. Whoa, my hair. God. It's freaking snowing here in Athol and Orange, Mass. And I had to lay out this little riff I had about some stuff that came up in my head in the last few days. So when I kind of woke up and realized I had to get sober and kind of take stock of my life, and even though there was a lot of traumatic experience, a lot of other influences, I had to go to AA and get really involved in recovery. I had pretty much lost a lot of my friends. I was going through a divorce. I was moving out with my kids. And I needed the support of people. I didn't have a lot of the connections I had prior for multiple reasons. I'm not going to really go into those. Just your average special needs mom. Some of you know what I'm talking about. But anyways, so I lost a lot of my friends. I was just smacked on my ass. Realized I had to kick a nasty drinking problem and just really take stock of my life and dove into it. And I used to bring my kids to the meetings, and I had a lot of friends. It was what I needed at the time. And I really jumped into the AA rhetoric, the 12-step program founded by Bill Wilson, and immersing myself in it. And over time, I felt the influence of a system of a new kind of control mechanism in terms of the AA situatione. But what really gets me, because I've talked about that on other recordings, and how I started using cannabis and that wasn't okay with that community, and several of us broke off, and how it really comes down with just another form of the system. So in the process of getting my act together, I needed to get my kids' act together too, and I had to catch them up on all their care, all their well-being visits. I had DCF involvement. I mean, I had to take them to the doctors, and I wasn't aware of the significance of the shots, the hexaneronal-ruskies, and I hadn't woken up to that piece of things yet. I woke up to the need that the world wasn't quite as I had thought it was, and had to take a lot of personal accountability, but I hadn't woken up to the systemic agenda. So I took all my kids, all four of them, and made sure that they got all their shots, and went to all their doctor's appointments, got caught up with all their TSC care, and and we were living in an apartment, and things were off the walls. And I really wonder if how much that push to catch them up, because they all had missed probably some hexaneronal-ruskies, got caught up. And I remember being in the office and them pitching me on these flu shots and these shots, and really wondering why it was like a sales pitch. And I have all their medical records, and I think they did get flu shots here and there. I didn't know about them, but each one of these, my offspring, during that time we were living there, had some really significant challenges medically, like cysts, like ovarian cysts, huge behavior problems, what we thought was another tumor growth. I'd say just escalated everything. And some of it, of course, was the trauma of going through a divorce. But I do believe it's funny, because I was trying to do everything right, to be righteous, to do the next right thing, because that's what I learned in the program. And while I understand that they didn't understand the system they were in then, Bill Wilson, who interestingly enough tried LSD when he was already sober for a while. I don't know the whole background of it, but he tried it, and he was like, wow, this would really help the alcoholics. And he proposed it to some group and whatnot, and they shut him down. They shut Bill Wilson, the founder of AA, down, because they didn't want that too much awareness of what we are in. So I was in the system, and I was playing in it, and it's like a sideshow. Like we have the recovery system, and I sacrificed the well-being of my kids to comply with the system, because I thought that was the next right thing. So while I do see the need for supportive programs around recovery and overcoming addiction and whatnot, especially when there's a lot of trauma and complications in the family setting, things that are kind of off the beaten track in any situation, because usually by the time you hit that kind of a bottom where your life falls apart and you're on the edge of getting a divorce and whatnot and maybe even arrested, your friends are probably not good for you. So you kind of have to start over and reboot. Or maybe you're not good for them. Who knows? But I made it through, and it's just a reflection of that. But it does seem, when I learned about Marina's work, Marina Karlova, shame, hierarchy, and contrived scarcity, that is what the system's built on. I saw how this whole AA system pressed my shame, that of course you're working on these things, you're doing a lot of shadow work in that program, but you're still really dependent on the system and complying to it. So while you're kind of aware and awake, in a lot of ways, you're also trapped. So that's what I have to say about that. So to all of our detriment, I even got a tetanus shot because I spilled boiling water on my stomach, and I had some scalding, and of course that required a tetanus shot. And I ended up having some bone issues and some other issues that I wonder were downstream of that. Anyways, it's unfortunately it's water under the bridge. But for anybody who is in these programs and is kind of given the nudge to get their life back on track, which might include over-compliance with the medical system, please think twice. Think twice. Think for yourself. Start finding your own voice and realize the system that you're in.